Once, the streets of America's northern border towns were alive with the sound of Canadian accents, shopping bags rustling, and cash registers ringing. These towns thrived on cross-border shoppers who came for cheaper goods, unique stores, and the joy of a quick getaway. But now, that steady stream has slowed to a trickle, and for some places, it has completely dried up. This isn't just about fewer visitors, it's about an entire way of life being tested. Businesses are closing, jobs are disappearing, and local economies are gasping for breath. Before we dive deeper into how 10 once thriving border towns are now fighting for survival, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the rest of our in-depth stories on global trade and its impact on local lives. The changing face of border economies. For decades, cross-border shopping was a win-win. Canadians would come south for lower prices, tax-free deals, and products they couldn't find at home, while U.S. towns got a steady boost to their local economies. But Trump tariffs, tighter customs checks, fluctuating exchange rates, and changing shopping habits have all chipped away at this tradition. Add in the convenience of online shopping, changing travel patterns, and even shifting tourism priorities, and you have the perfect storm threatening these communities and the livelihoods that have depended on this steady cross-border exchange for generations. 1. Blaine, Washington, the empty gateway. Blaine once felt like a permanent festival. On weekends, Canadians poured across the Peace Arch border crossing for gas, groceries, and outlet shopping. Restaurants would be packed, and even the smallest gift shops thrived. But today, the parking lots tell a different story, half empty, quiet, and struggling to attract customers. Local shop owners say the Trump tariffs didn't just raise prices, they created a psychological barrier. Many Canadians now feel their money is better spent at home, especially when currency exchange rates add to the cost. Blaine's struggle is a textbook case of how policy decisions ripple down to the smallest Main Street businesses, leaving communities to fight for survival in a market that once came so easily. 2. Niagara Falls, New York, tourists stay on their side. Niagara Falls is a tourist magnet, but fewer Canadian visitors cross the Rainbow Bridge for U.S. shopping sprees. Once, a day trip might include sightseeing, outlet malls, and dinner in town. Now, with tariffs raising the cost of American goods and stricter travel checks, many Canadians choose to stay on their side of the falls, where the scenery is just as spectacular and the shopping doesn't come with extra fees. The loss of spontaneous day trippers has left restaurants and hotels feeling the pinch, forcing some long-standing businesses to cut staff hours and rethink how to attract the visitors who once came without hesitation. 3. Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, a split community. Here, the border isn't just a crossing, it's part of daily life. Families, friends, and businesses span both sides of the St. Mary's River. For years, cross-border shoppers fueled both economies. But rising costs and slower customs inspections have created friction. Small retailers report sales drops of up to 40% compared to pre-tariff years. It's more than just numbers, it's a fraying of community bonds built over generations, with some residents saying they now cross only when absolutely necessary, breaking traditions that have endured for decades. 4. Calais, Maine, the vanishing grocery rush. Calais used to see steady waves of Canadians filling up carts at American supermarkets, buying goods that were once much cheaper than back home. But higher prices caused by tariffs, plus fluctuating fuel costs, mean the math doesn't work for many shoppers anymore. Local grocers say they've had to cut staff hours and scale back inventory because the Canadian rush simply isn't there. Where parking lots once overflowed on weekends, now they sit half empty, leaving store managers scrambling to fill the revenue gap with fewer local customers. 5. Derby Line, Vermont, the quiet village. This unique town is literally split by the border, with some buildings straddling the line between Canada and the U.S. Once, neighbors freely crossed to shop, socialize, and attend community events. Now, with heightened enforcement and the lingering effects of trade tensions, the spontaneous crossings that kept small shops busy have slowed dramatically. The village library, famously shared by both countries, remains a symbol of connection, but the economic lifeline is fading, with business owners warning that without a revival in visitors, the town's cross-border charm could soon become just a memory. 6. International Falls, Minnesota, from boom to bust. Known as the icebox of the nation, International Falls once welcomed Canadian shoppers looking for everything from winter gear to electronics. But retail managers say that after tariffs raised prices and border delays became common, many loyal Canadian customers stopped making the trip. Now, empty storefronts dot Main Street, and community leaders are scrambling for new strategies to keep the town alive, hosting events and promotions in hopes of bringing back even a fraction of the cross-border business they once enjoyed. 7. Houlton, Maine, a gas pump ghost town. Houlton gas stations used to rely heavily on Canadians filling up before heading home. Lower U.S. fuel prices meant steady business. But with tariffs and tighter border rules making trips less appealing, station owners have seen sales drop by double digits. It's not just fuel, diners, hardware stores, and roadside motels that depended on the spillover are also hurting, forcing some long-time owners to close or reduce hours just to survive in the slower economy. 8. Champlain, New York, malls without crowds. The Champlain border crossing leads directly to a cluster of outlet malls that once thrived on cross-border shoppers. Retail workers recall weekends when parking lots were packed with Ontario and Quebec license plates. Now, managers face empty aisles and clearance racks that linger for months. E-commerce has made it easier for Canadians to shop without crossing a border, and local malls are feeling that shift like never before, with some anchor stores closing and leaving gaping holes in once busy shopping centers. 9. Point Roberts, Washington, a town cut off. Point Roberts is a geographic oddity, an American town accessible by land only through Canada. For decades, Canadians were its lifeblood, coming for groceries, gas, and vacation homes. But with tariffs raising prices and extra border checks making the trip more of a hassle, many have stopped coming. Businesses here are uniquely vulnerable. Without Canadian visitors, the town's economy is on life support, with some residents openly worrying that Point Roberts could become a ghost town if trends continue. 10. Grand Forks, North Dakota, the empty hotel blocks. Grand Forks once depended on Canadian tourists filling its hotels during shopping weekends and special events. These guests would spend freely at department stores, restaurants, and entertainment venues. But local tourism boards say the shift in shopping habits has hit hard. Canadian visitors who once stayed for 2 nights now skip the trip altogether. Empty hotel rooms mean less revenue for the entire city, affecting everyone from hospitality workers to small cafe owners who relied on that steady tourist income. Why this matters beyond the border. The crisis facing these towns is more than a local problem, it's a warning sign about the fragility of regional economies. When trade tensions, tariffs, and currency shifts disrupt consumer behavior, the ripple effects can hollow out communities. The decline of cross-border shopping is also reshaping cultural ties, reducing the everyday exchanges that once kept U.S. Canada relations warm on a human level. It's not just an economic shift, it's a cultural one, with friendships, family visits, and shared traditions all quietly fading in the background. Looking ahead, can these towns adapt? Economists and local leaders suggest solutions, from boosting domestic tourism to diversifying local industries. Some towns are rebranding themselves as destinations for outdoor recreation or unique cultural events. But without addressing the root causes, like tariffs and travel friction, the recovery will be slow. For real change to happen, cooperation between policymakers, business owners, and residents on both sides of the border will be essential to rebuild trust, convenience, and the spirit of connection these towns once enjoyed. These 10 border towns are more than just points on a map, they're living reminders of how deeply interconnected economies can be. When the flow of shoppers stops, the heartbeat of a community weakens. Whether through smart policy, creative reinvention, or renewed cross-border cooperation, saving these towns will require effort from both sides of the line. Their survival will depend not only on economic recovery, but also on the restoration of the personal ties and cultural bonds that made them thrive for generations. If you found this story eye-opening, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss our deep dive documentaries. Share this video to keep the conversation going, because the more we talk about these challenges, the closer we get to finding solutions.